My name is Laurie Rice, and I work for the Atlas Society, a think tank in Washington, D.C. for the promotion of the ideas of Ayn Rand and Atlas Shrugged. I'm here today with Ron Johnson, Wisconsin Republican Senator and former CEO of Packer, a medical device packaging company. Ron, let's start with this statue in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Is it a reference to Atlas Shrugged?
The story behind that is a friend of mine, Ben Ganthert, who's a small business owner and owner of a construction company, called me up one day, and there was this big old statue on the side of the road for sale. It was Atlas, and it had the world. It was obviously the Atlas Shrugged symbol, and said he was thinking about buying it, and I said, yeah, absolutely, I'll pay for half of it. And so he bought it up right away, and because he's a contractor, put it up in the front of his business, on a really nice stand, nice little patio around it, lights. He puts Christmas lights on it in the wintertime, and so I was proud to be, to actually participate in that project.
And the caption, "Fight to be free," what does that mean to you?
Well, I believe humanity has been in an ongoing struggle for freedom, and one of the reasons I ran is because I see those freedoms in America threatened. This I always call it a 236-year-old experiment, and that's what we have here in this country. It's something precious, and I'm concerned that we're losing it. So when Ben asked me, what do you want to put on the base of that statue, and he had a bunch of things, I said, no, let's keep it simple. Let's just talk about the struggle that we face throughout the millennium and the faith that we face today. Let's just put "fight to be free."
What freedoms have we lost?
Well, I think Americans are a little bit like a bunch of frogs in that pot of water, and the water's being brought up to a boil, and I think we're losing freedoms across the board. The reason I ran really was in reaction to the passage of the health care law, which I think is really the greatest assault on our freedom in my lifetime. During the original oral arguments at the Supreme Court, I think it was the only senator that attended all 4 days of those arguments. And prior to attending those, I was being interviewed by somebody, and I had this concept that we're kind of all suffering collectively from the Stockholm syndrome. That's where people who have been kidnapped are grateful to their captors when they just show them a little bit of mercy. And collectively, we just don't understand the freedoms we're really losing, and so we're going to the Supreme Court begging them, please, allow us this one last shred of freedom. Allow us the freedom to decide what product we're going to purchase or not purchase. And unfortunately, for Americans, for our freedoms, we were denied that right.
Calling on your own experience as a businessman, did government regulation ever interfere with your ability to run your business?
Yes. And one of the most egregious examples, it wasn't a federal regulation, it probably was a state regulation, but we had a local electrical inspector come into our plant as we put a brand new piece of equipment. These are $2.5 million pieces of equipment, the extruded plastic sheet. And he asked the question, well, is this UL approved? Like it was a hair dryer or a coffee pot. And we said, that doesn't happen. I mean, you don't just have one power cord with a little UL approved sticker on it. We had to get our $2.5 million piece of equipment UL approved. It cost us $70,000. And we had to do that before they would give us a permit to operate that piece of equipment. Now that's absurd. We had complied with all of the OSHA standards, but this one electrical inspector, and he had the power to prevent us from actually putting in operation a $2.5 million piece of equipment, so we had to comply. We had to spend $70,000. Now, where else could we spent that $70,000? We possibly could have done it, maybe increasing wages or investing in 401k plans. I mean, that is the insidious nature of all of these government rules and regulations.
Ayn Rand wrote Atlas Shrugged in 1957 partly as a warning against the growth of government. Do you see parallels between the plot of Atlas Shrugged and current events?
Absolutely. I just attended some meetings with big company CEOs that came into Washington on, fix the debt. And a lot of these CEOs are saying, it's okay with us, increase our taxes. We're fine with that. We can afford to pay it. The fact is they can't afford to pay it. They come here as large organizations and they game the system. And so from their standpoint, sure, their board of directors will increase their pay to make up for the additional taxes they'll pay, so they'll be whole. But what will end up happening is the small to medium-sized businesses, those individuals that report their income through subchapter S and LLCs, they'll get taxed at 39.6% or more. And of course, the CEOs of large corporations, they've been made whole salary-wise, and everybody understands that we're uncompetitive corporate tax rate rise. wise. So they'll be dropping their tax rates down to about 25%. Small to medium-sized businesses will be at 39.6%. Obviously a huge competitive disadvantage. And let's face it, it is small to medium-sized businesses that really are the engine of economic innovation and job creation in this country. And that's going to be a very bad thing for America.
What is the purpose of your political career?
Well, the reason I ran really was to repeal the health care law. Unfortunately, the results of November 6th, the health care law is going to be implemented. But that was the primary reason, juxtaposed against the overall problem that we have in terms of our debt and deficit. I mean, it's simply unsustainable, the amount of debt that we're accumulating in this country. But if you want to get to the root cause of the problem, it really is the size, the scope, the resulting cost of government. I mean, that is the problem. That's if you're looking for a metric that we have to measure, that we have to control, it's government in relationship to the size of our economy. In 2009 it was 25%. It's come down a little bit, but it's on a path to go to 35%. And those are economic models that we understand simply are not sustainable.
Do you see examples of shrugging in the economy today?
It's a real concern. As I talk to business owners that maybe started their businesses in the 70s and 80s, I mean, they tell me, Ron, there's no way, with today's regulations, today's levels of taxation, there's no way I could start my business today. And I'm certainly concerned. A lot of the generation of baby boomers that have had successful businesses, they just might shrug. With all the regulations, with the increasing taxes, they may say, I'm going to give it up. And the problem for our economy is when they do that. Let's say they sell it to a conglomerate. A lot of times big businesses just buy smaller businesses to basically take the capacity out of the marketplace. Those businesses may be gone forever. And again, that's going to be a very dangerous thing for our economy.
Do you think there's a tipping point for American freedom and prosperity?
I see two tipping points. The financial tipping point, which really is talking about the debt crisis, the point where world creditors look at the United States and say, I'm not going to loan you any more money, not at that rate. And interest rates start increasing, and then our interest costs explode, crowds out all their spending. That's the financial tipping point. The other one I'm talking about is the cultural tipping point, where we really have developed this culture of entitlement dependency that is not what America's all about. I mean, America, and that's of course what Atlas Shrugged is about, is individuals aspiring to build things, to make their life, and as a result, the world a better place. And when we shift to a culture where people are just saying, I'm happy to sit back and let the government provide me with things, that becomes a very dangerous point in time for this country.
What do you see as the differences between your ideas and the ideas of Ayn Rand?
I'm not sure there are too many differences. I guess when you take a look at the book Atlas Shrugged, I think most people always like to identify with the main character. That'd be John Galt. I guess I identify with Hank Rearden, the fellow that just refused until the very end to give up. And I guess I'd like to think of myself more as a Hank Rearden. I'm not going to give up. I mean, America is something far, far too precious in the span of human history. This is something, I'll never give up hope on America. I hope everybody that's watching this will never give up hope.